Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
His voice saying beef, it's what's for dinner, is one of the most recognizable advertising slogans of any campaign that's ever been created.
We'll hear from the voice behind the beef checkoff advertising. Also, learn techniques from two veterinarians on how to properly handle and administer vaccines in this week's Cattle Learning Center. Plus, we'll spend a day in the life of a beef industry trailblazing team.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Susie Ross. In this week's cattle industry news, ranchers in the Yellowstone National Park region are concerned about the threat of brucellosis exposure from elk and bison in the region. Cattle industry representatives expressed these concerns to members of a House Resources Subcommittee, asking that all parties work together to eradicate this threat to livestock health. Cattlemen continue to push for development of cellulosic ethanol technologies. These methods of producing ethanol address the nation's energy needs but do not compete directly for feed grains. Ag Secretary Mike Johans has pledged to make research on this issue a funding priority in the upcoming Farm Bill. And it's always great news when NCBA's members have the opportunity to hear directly from the President. At the Spring Legislative Conference, members received a surprise visit from President Bush. The President gave cattlemen his thoughts on some key trade issues and other administration priorities.
The message he gave was very clear. He spoke to us as ranchers and farmers. He spoke to us as Americans, and he certainly touched a lot of the heartstring issues that are important to all of us.
We'll have much more on President Bush's visit in next week's Spring Conference Report. Plus, join us April 17th for a special presentation of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, focusing on the President's work in and for the beef industry. The spring calving season is drawing to a close, so how do you maximize your profits from this year's calf crop? We have more in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
Joining us today is Randy Block from Cattle Facts. Welcome back, Randy. Good to have you.
Thanks, Susie.
So the situation for producers is that after weeks of hard work, spring calves are all on the ground, but the decisions made in this next year will really determine my profit level on those calves, right?
No doubt about it. You know, cow-calf operators have more decision opportunities than anybody else within the production system. And this year, as we look down the road, some of the things that cow-calf producers may want to think about in their production regime this year is, hey, do I want to precondition and wean my calves? In the last 2 years, that's been worth $4 to $8 a hundred more than selling the calves right off the cow. Source and age verified calves are bringing $10 to $30 a head premium to non-source and age verified calves. I think producers, they just need to decide, hey, what market am I targeting? You know, other things that I think they should be thinking about, hay supplies are a 50-year low. So do I need to be thinking ahead and starting to purchase hay for this next fall's needs early this year instead of waiting until we get right to that time period?
You know, sometimes it's hard to find market information that really helps the cow-calf producer. What tools do you offer at Cattle Facts?
Well, we're excited. We've always put out a newsletter that has gone out to cattlemen in all segments of the industry, but just in the last month we've started a new cow-calf publication, a new publication called Trends, and it was produced for cow-calf and stocker operators around the United States to give them an opportunity to get a feel what's really going on in the market, giving them some insight and some decision tools that they could consider when they're making decisions in their marketing plans.
Fantastic. Good. Thanks, Randy. Looks like it's just perfect for the cow-calf producer.
Well, I think it'll be a great tool for them. We're excited about it, and we're looking forward to feedback from producers out there.
Excellent. Thank you. For a copy of Trends or for more information to help your operation, visit cattle-facts.com. The Beef Checkoff's advertising campaign carries one of the most enduring themes and taglines. In Denver, beef producers had the opportunity to say thanks to the voice behind the ads. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Kevin Ochsner has more in this week's Center of the Plate.
It was a thrill of a lifetime for many beef producers. The voice behind the checkoff-funded beef ads, actor Sam Elliott, made a rare appearance.
And he's been just a tremendous voice for the industry. His voice saying beef, it's what's for dinner, with that rodeo music in the background, is one of the most recognizable advertising slogans of any campaign that's ever been created. And to have him show up in person, it just brought the house down.
In fact, research on the effectiveness of the beef ad campaign shows that more than 85% of consumers recognize that very memorable tagline delivered by an unforgettable voice.
That leave you with one more thought. Beef, it's what's for dinner.
For NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, I'm Kevin Ochsner.
Sam Elliott has been the voice of beef since 1998. Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, expert veterinarians demonstrate how to properly clean syringes and needles for vaccinating your herd. Plus,
it looks good, tastes good, and it's darn good for you too.
We'll spend a day in the life of a husband and wife team who are blazing trails in the beef industry. But first, here's a look at this week's market summary provided by CattleFax.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain mineral special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Keeping your herd healthy means more than protecting your bottom line. It means having pride in what you do. That's why Fort Dodge Animal Health has developed Pyramid 5 and Pyramid 10 with Metastem that provide broad BVD Type 1 and 2 protection in combination with IBR, BRSV, and PI3 in Pyramid 5. Plus, protection against 5 strains of lepto with Pyramid 10. At Fort Dodge, we'll take care of protecting your herd so you'll have time for the really important things.
There ain't no bugs on me. There ain't no bugs on me. There may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
Canine Advantix is the one that repels and kills disease-spreading fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. Frontline Plus doesn't repel and isn't effective against mosquitoes. So ask your veterinarian for Canine Advantix, the one that repels and kills.
Yeah, there may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
And now, this week's Management Minute.
Move to how you clean these things up. When they come back, they need to be cleaned thoroughly, outside and inside. Put those in water and completely fill the syringe. And once I've got that syringe completely filled, if I wrap that in wet paper towels, completely cover it in wet paper towels, and drop it in a plastic bag, make sure my paper towels are around any of the metal parts.
I thought we weren't supposed to put metal in microwaves.
If you've gotten ample water around this, the metal parts in something like this won't cause any sparking problem at all. Then we use the microwave oven. Literally, microwaves don't, nothing special. They're going to heat water, and we're going to sterilize this by boiling. When I come back out of this microwave, usually set it for 5 minutes, all the water inside has been completely, it'll be gone. At this point in time, we're going to store this. I store them in a freezer because that's bacteria don't grow in a freezer. But as long as you keep them in a nice clean place and leave them in a bag so dust and so forth, they're ready to go.
Welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. On a recent trip to the Meat Animal Research Center in Nebraska, we caught up with 2 veterinarians who show us how to properly handle and administer vaccines in order to help prevent diseases.
I vaccinated, but my calves still got sick. Why?
You too. I hear that in 30 years. It seems to be a common complaint. And producers somehow frequently think vaccines are the answer to animal health, and it's just part of the picture. True, you have to have a high-quality vaccine. In fact, a really smart guy said cattlemen are going broke, stepping over dollar bills trying to pick up nickels. And that's probably no place any truer than selection of vaccines. High quality vaccines for the right kind of problem. I think calf scours is a really good example. You can go broke spending money for calf scours, but until you deal with the calf and the environment and the bugs that are in his environment, you're never getting any place. High quality vaccines, properly selected.
But we've got to know how to handle them and how to give them, don't we?
Good point. Let's go take a look at that.
Okay, Dee, how about some tips on how we can clean up?
Sure. I've got kinds of equipment that we use regularly. This is the most common syringe that we use and many others. It's a pistol grip syringe. We take these completely apart and boil them. The joints, the rubber joints, we lubricate with a little bit of cooking oil. A spray oil is probably my favorite. And put those back together and store them in a dry, clean place. On the automatics, if we suck a number of loads of hot boiling water until we've gotten all the insides completely cleaned, never ever use any soap. Leave them full of water, and I have in the microwave one that I've already done. Wrap them in paper towels, wet paper towels, inside a Ziploc bag, and microwave them on high for about 5 minutes. All the water inside will evaporate or boil and boil out. There'll be just a few residual drops. Leave them wrapped up. Store these in a freezer. Freezer won't be any mold growth from any residual moisture, and it's always a nice, dry, clean place. Before we get ready to use them, they're going to come out cold. We need to make sure that our sterilization is, one more time, we'll boil a little water in a microwave oven and rinse our syringes about 3 times to make sure that we've got all that blown off, and double check to make sure that our transfer needles, in fact, we wind up with nice sterile syringes and then screw up a lot of vaccines with dirty transfer needles. And I use the same process. I'll wrap the transfer needle in some wet paper towel, put them in a container, and run a microwave in no more than 30 seconds or so, just enough to boil the water around that needle, renders it sterile, and then store it in a nice, clean, dry place.
We're headed chute side with Doctors Griffin and Grote-Lushen. We'll head back out to the research center to learn how to handle vaccines correctly. We'll be right back.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Let's head back to Clay Center, Nebraska for the second part of this week's Cattle Learning Center.
Okay, Dee, we're ready to head out to the chute. How do we pack up?
Well, you got the first big important part. There's a nice styrofoam cooler and a frozen ice pack. We've selected carefully vaccines appropriate for our use. Here's a modified live IBR. Here's our 7-way. And in this case, we also have a Pasteurella vaccine. I have a sterile transfer needle for moving those around the bottle, and I've got an appropriate selection of needles.
How do we know how many needles to take?
That's a good question. We need to calculate 1 needle for every 10 to 15 animals. Okay. And extra animals, because if we contaminate that needle on between the very first animal, we need a new one. Contaminated and damaged needles just need to be replaced before they're used. We need to use a new needle on every bottle if we happen to re-enter. And we need to have the size appropriate for the animal that we're working with. 1 and 1.5 inch needles for our intramuscular injections. I use a 1 inch 18 gauge for our light calves and a 1.5 inch for our larger animals. For our sub-Q injections, I'm either going to use an 18 in our light calves and a 16 in our heavier calves, like over 500 pounds. 5/8 or 3/4 of an inch. I also have our syringes that we prepared earlier. We've got those in our unit. Make sure I review the label instructions, withdrawals, any precautions. All our vaccines have a 21 gauge day withdrawal unless they have oil adjuvant, and then they're 60.
But Dee, can't we just go ahead and mix our vaccine up right here?
No. Never mix up more than one bottle at a time. We're just not in that big a hurry. Quality, not quantity, is what our objectives.
Great. We're ready to head to the chute.
Let's go. Okay, so we're here. We've got the right vaccine. You've got a sterile transfer needle. We review the label to make sure that we've got the proper dose. We understand the withdrawal times and any other precautions. Now we're going to mix this first by inserting the needle in the diluent, sterile diluent, and then into the desiccated vaccine at the bottom, and let those two. Put the diluent over the top, and the vacuum will suck it down into the other bottle. Once those are mixed, and we mix these immediately prior to using the vaccines, we attach them to our vaccination syringe. We've attached the proper needle. I'm going to empty this and suck the vaccine down into the syringe. So I've properly loaded a 2 milliliter dose. This is a subcutaneous vaccine, so I slide with my 3/4 inch needle. I lift the skin. You can see the tinted technique. Inject the vaccine and withdraw. Well, we're ready for the next calf.
Dee, some other information that we need to record in addition to the dosage, the vaccine, and so forth is the expiration date, the serial number, and the lot number located on the box.
Good point. I'll record those for our BQA records and to have for the next owner of these cattle.
Given that the animal responds, you've injected this appropriately, this should be a successful vaccination.
We've covered all our bases. One last thing is remember that we reviewed the safety precautions. Safety is everything.
If you want to learn more about vaccination practices and procedures, go to cattlemen2cattlemen.org. It's a way to recognize someone in the beef industry who makes an outstanding contribution. We'll introduce you to the 2006 Trailblazer Award winners next.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
My name is Randy Scott, Clay Center, Nebraska, the Meat Animal Research Center. This is Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Each year, Beef Magazine recognizes outstanding contributors to our industry with the Trailblazer Award. The 2006 winners are Bob and Nancy Montross. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Jim Witt has more in this week's Day in the Life.
It's an idea that was born a decade ago as a way to help increase consumer demand and consumption of beef. It's a program called Beef Bucks.
Well, the South Dakota Beef Buck is a prepaid check, the original Beef Buck is, that can be used anywhere in the United States for the purchase of meat, either in a restaurant or else through the retail counter, over the counter to prepare at home.
And now, Beef Bucks are available to consumers worldwide. Bob and Nancy Montross run the not-for-profit organization out of their farmhouse in DeSmet, South Dakota, and take orders for beef bucks 7 days a week.
Very often, very seldom as our day goes by, we don't get a phone call from somebody in some part of the country inquiring about beef bucks or want to purchase beef bucks.
The Beef Bucks program, coupled with lifelong contributions to the industry, helped the Montroses become Beef Magazine's 2006 Trailblazer Award winners.
They really wear beef and beef promotion and beef quality on their sleeve, and they're just excellent and very fervent ambassadors for beef.
And it's that fervor that has helped the Beef Bucks program raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, money that goes back into the industry the Montroses love.
It looks good, tastes good, and it's darn good for you too.
Jim Witt, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Beef Bucks are now available in a debit card format, and the Montroses are always happy to take your order. To get your Beef Bucks, call 1-888-640-MEAT. Have you ever wondered where those fabulous beef recipes found in the Healthy Beef Cookbook or at the Beef It's What's for Dinner website come from? Those recipes are all tested and approved at NCBA's Culinary Center in downtown Chicago. Executive Director Dave Zinno takes us on a tour.
Hello, my name is Dave Zinno. I'm the Executive Director of the Checkoff-funded Beef and Veal Culinary Center here in Chicago. And at the Culinary Center, we don't make the beef, we make it better. And we make it better by extensive recipe development and testing. As you can see, this equipment isn't the most elegant in the world, but it is that middle-of-the-road type equipment that we know every consumer USA has. We test on both gas and electric, and we have multiple testers going through these recipes to make sure that our timings are exactly what they should be. Our goal is to develop recipes that consumers from California to New York will have that confidence in creating that delicious beef dinner for their families. Okay, we're continuing our tour here, and we're now in our food service kitchen. And in this kitchen, we develop recipes that are chef-driven. So our equipment is a little more sturdy, food service grade. And basically what we do with these recipes is we kind of deconstruct them and rebuild them again, because chefs are very intuitive and don't do the measuring and the weighing as we do in the test kitchen. So we kind of break the recipe down and then bring it back up again so these recipes can be published in food service magazines. And we do this both for beef and veal. Well, thank you for joining us on our tour here at the Culinary Center. And I'd just like to wrap up and say that this group out here in Chicago, although we're small in number, are very strong with our beef experience, and we're extremely proud to work for beef producers on behalf of the Beef Checkoff. As a matter of fact, all the recipes in the Healthy Beef Cookbook were tested here in the Culinary Center. We worked very closely with Chef Richard Chamberlain to make sure these recipes could be the best they could possibly be. So with that, thanks for joining us, and we're going to send it back to you, Susie.
Thanks, Dave. For great beef recipes, check out beefitswhatsfordinner.com. We're receiving legacy photos from around the country. Here's a look at this week's pics. Please keep sending those photos. Head to cattlemen.org and don't forget to include details about your operation. Next week, we will bring you our spring conference special, Journey with a Cattleman from Nebraska, to get a first-hand look at his experience. Plus, hear about issues that are making an impact on the Hill. Thanks for joining us on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Be sure to tune in next week. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time right here on RFD TV.